Hello there, and welcome to a Geek Speak special. My name is Nath, and this week I've been leafing back through my catalogue of videos here on the channel, and I realised that I have some unfinished business with a certain blue hedgehog. Some time ago, I made a special list feature highlighting what is, in my opinion, the best level in every single Sonic game that I've played. Please feel free to follow the link in the description and to go and watch that one. For every amazing level, there is also going to be one that falls short of the standard, one that players dread when they reach that part of the game, and one they have to grit their teeth with and push on through. This list is very much a celebration of those stages in Sonic games that make us want to snap our controllers in half. As with the companion piece for this video, there are some ground rules that I'm putting into play. One entry per game. No tutorials or minigames are going to be allowed. All zones in a level are to be considered. I must have completed the game, so we won't be having any of the storybook games or Sonic Superstars at the moment. And Sonic/Shadow must be playable in the game. To keep these things simple, I will be following the same list of games from the first video so that it does work as a companion piece. And so, we do begin in Sonic 1, and maybe quite surprisingly, with Marble Zone from Sonic 1. Now, I'm sure that a lot of people were expecting me to put Labyrinth Zone here, and don't get me wrong, I definitely considered it. But having looked at the game as a whole, I personally feel that Marble Zone is an overall worse stage. Firstly, its placement in the game as the second level takes out all the momentum and joy that the player experiences from the Green Hill Zone, and acts like a brick wall by replacing the speed and excitement with a slow, claustrophobic and frankly boring set of stages. For all of Labyrinth Zone's faults, it does act as a good difficulty spike at the midway point of the game, and while a slower and more challenging world, I still find it more enjoyable as a challenge. Marble Zone commits the cardinal sin of a Sonic game by taking away the main unique selling point of a Sonic game: speed. Next up is Wacky Workbench, the only level in Sonic CD that I actively dislike. Unlike Marble Zone, the lack of speed is not the issue here, but the main gimmick and layout of the stage itself. With the main floor of the level acting as a hyper-powered trampoline, Sonic must play the world's worst game of The Floor is Lava to beat this neon nightmare. The level also flips the script on the classic Sonic trope, as instead of being rewarded for taking the highest path through the level, you instead must navigate yourself to the closest point to the floor and are punished for exploring the level. Complete with instant crush deaths, awful enemy placement and poor visibility throughout, this one for me is the worst classic Sonic zone across the 2D games of the series. I have said before, and I stand by this, there are no truly bad levels in Sonic 2. To call Sky Chase a level is maybe being a tad generous, but for me it is a bit of a boring stage and an oddly placed one for that. For context, this level comes just after the frantic Metropolis Zone and right before the climax of the game. So putting Sonic on a slow-moving auto-scroller game, which in truth is actually very easy, somewhat stalls the game. Don't get me wrong, there are far worse levels on this list, and this one has some lovely music and an interesting change-up of gameplay. The big issue for me is its placement in the game, as it kills momentum for the finale for me, and therefore is the level that I've ranked the lowest from Sonic 2. Arguably the weaker half of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I was torn between Marble Garden and Carnival Night Zone for this next entry, but ultimately I settled on Carnival Night, as again, while not an outright awful stage, it does make a number of missteps. The level does rather overstay its welcome, being the most unreasonably long level in the game. There are also several other similarly themed levels across the series that simply do it better, like Casino Night, Studiopolis, Springyard, and even Mystic Jungle from Forces. The other issue that I take with this level, as some of you may have already guessed, is the dreaded barrel. Oh, the barrel. This was, for me and many other players back in the 90s, the end of our Sonic 3 journey. This was back in the day before internet guides and YouTube videos were at your fingertips with all the answers, and so as we desperately tried to figure out how to move this frustrating barrel, most of our gaming sessions would end with Sonic running out of time and perishing atop the seemingly immovable obstacle. Sandopolis Act 1 is actually quite a good level. It has some slower puzzle platforming, but it does have some excellent high-speed loops and is an overall decent stage. Act 2, however, is where the wheels fall off the wagon, as it sticks Sonic and Knuckles inside a dimly lit and ghost-infested tomb. The gimmick here is truly awful, as you have to grab light switches to keep the ghosts at bay, while simultaneously activating timed door switches throughout the pyramid and then racing through narrow hallways to get to those doors that, if poorly timed, will crush you to death. The enemy placement and maze-like structure of this level are also a massive drawback to what on paper should have been an excellent level concept. The final insult on this one is that the Act 2 boss is insultingly easy to beat and takes any little satisfaction of beating this level away. It is a poor showing from what is otherwise a brilliant game. From Sonic Adventure comes the Lost World Zone, and it is a good example of an interesting idea executed poorly. The level aesthetic itself is actually quite interesting, with a kind of Indiana Jones meets Tomb Raider vibe going in its favour. Unfortunately, the pacing is all over the place, as the level has some of the fastest and then slowest sections in the entire game. The sections using anti-gravity wall panels and giant stone water serpents are the biggest offenders here, being awkward and clunky, thanks in no small part to the poor camera control in the game. It is a creative and unique level to be sure, but ultimately it doesn't really add much to the game, and in the grand scheme of things does nothing to further the story. Another level that falls foul to poor camera and anti-gravity sections is Sonic Adventure 2's Crazy Gadget. In theory, a stage set aboard and outside of the Space Colony Ark should be an automatic home run. Unfortunately, this level will see you striking out in a number of cheap ways, as the level is full of bottomless pits, blind drops, awful enemy placement, and that dreadful anti-gravity section right at the end. The level simply does not need to have this section, and it looks completely out of place here, as Sonic navigates between what can only be described as floating Tetris pieces in space. They are just slapped into the level here with no real purpose or design beyond anything other than to be awkward and a janky time sponge. It is a disappointing level and a missed opportunity for sure. Sonic Heroes is next, and while there are some weak levels in this game, the double or nothing entry of Casino Park and Bingo Highway lands decidedly on the nothing side of that equation. In terms of look and sound, these levels would be in my top 3 from the entire game. Sadly, it is the gameplay and layout again that are the letdown, as you navigate your chosen trio of heroes across pinball tables and some of the worst physics in any game ever. You then launch your way hurtling down bingo slides with all the predictability of a drunken wasp. The sections of level in between these set pieces are overly simple and very much there just as a between pathway. Combine this with lots of bottomless pits and you have yet another recipe for wasted potential. We're not mad Sonic Heroes, just a bit disappointed. We return to Space Colony Ark now, but this time with Shadow the Hedgehog. Perhaps the second most notorious game in the entire franchise, I personally am a big defender of the edgy 2005 platformer, as I truly believe it had some great ideas and some truly excellent levels. Lost Impact is not one of those levels. This nightmare of a starship has Shadow either hunting down the 35 artificial chaos monsters or scrambling to find the goal ring hidden deep within this labyrinthine laboratory, and it is a tall order indeed. What really pushes this level from bad to awful though is the fact that the level is basically the same 3 hallways again and again and again. If you miss even one objective, you can spend upwards of 5 minutes backtracking through the level, and because everything looks the flip insane, it soon becomes an exercise of extreme patience. The game itself is by no means perfect, but this one level is my pick for the worst 3D level in any Sonic game ever.
Will take off any minute.
Aquatic Base Zone is another example of the momentum being sucked dry from the game right at the point that it should be ramping up. Sonic's version of this stage is the final level in his story campaign and is for the most part a slow wade through enemies, obstacles and bottomless pits set to a slow, drudgy, melancholic soundtrack. While this game has its fair share of issues and poor design, for the most part, the rest of the levels are interesting and at least have some kind of urgency about them. Aquatic Base, sadly, is simply put, slow and boring to me. Everything a final level in any game should absolutely not be. And everything an opening level should also not be, as we turn our attention now to the first zone in the excellent Sonic Advance trilogy. Truth be told, I found these games the hardest to pick for this list, as I think they are utterly brilliant. The reason Neo Green Hill Zone is in the slot for Sonic Advance is that by the time these games came out, well, I was really rather tired of the Green Hill Zone aesthetic. Sonic 1, Sonic CD, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic 3D Blast, and even the mess that is Sonic 4 all start with the Green Hill level style, and there's only so many times that I want to see that. Don't get me wrong, this game has some fantastically created new zone styles to play with, and for me, it was just a little bit disappointing to see the gameplay so safe with its opening number. Not a bad zone, just one that is done much better in all the games that I've listed above. Sonic Advance 2 was the hardest game on this list for me to choose from, as it has some phenomenal level styles and is in my opinion the highlight of the Advance trilogy. I settled on Egg Utopia, the game's final level, simply because it is somewhat of a rehash and a level that does not encourage good gameplay. Following on from the brilliant techno-based level, the Egg Utopia follows the classic Eggman in Space theme from the original games, but ends up being a pale reflection of gimmicks found in the Death Egg Zone from Sonic & Knuckles. There is not much substance to the platforming here, as a lot of the level feels like it's on rails. At some points it quite literally is on rails. And rather than rewarding exploration, it instead requires the player to learn the layout, including multiple blind drops and anti-grav tomfoolery. The level is an exercise in memory and reaction time rather than actual platforming, and while nowhere near as bad as other entries on my list, it is the weakest level in Sonic Advance 2. Ocean Base from Sonic Advance 3 is an unfortunate mashup for me of the Scrap Brain Zone from Sonic 1 and Oil Ocean Zone from Sonic 2. It feels oddly placed in the sequence of the game, as it's only the second zone, but it is also one of the toughest in the game. The stage is very linear and vertical, meaning that there is a heavy reliance on slow moving platforms and not a great deal of speed on offer here. While not a bad level per se, they are pretty dull to look at, and forgettable is not something that the second level in a game should be, so in that regard it is here for similar reasons as Marble Zone from Sonic 1. Had this level been placed later in the game, maybe I might not have picked it, but sadly it is a massive step down from the game's opening level, Route 99. If we ignore the Werehog stages in this game and focus solely on Sonic's daytime stages, there is an argument to be made that this is the very best 3D Sonic has to offer. The level that I personally have the most difficulty with, Arid Sands. Now, there is a chance that this is a skill issue, but the issue that I take with this level is its opening section. Simply put, it is poorly designed with lots of sharp, blind corners, unmissable objects, and yes, more bottomless pits that spell instant death and make the time trials for this level incredibly frustrating. This level also hosts one of the hardest trophies in the game that I have still yet to unlock, which asks you to beat the level in one run in under 2 minutes and 50 seconds. No thank you, game. I will happily take on Eggman Land any day over the sandy speedway. Featuring one of the coolest looking aesthetics in the game, it is a massive shame to me that the Starlight Carnival from Sonic Colors is such a letdown of a zone. Following on from other levels we have already discussed, the main failings of this galactic festival are again on-rails gameplay, slow, clunky platforming, and lots of cheap and nasty instant kill zones. The variety of gameplay in the Zone's 6 acts is a bit disappointing too. An over-reliance of gimmicks and vertical stage layout lets down the pacing of the game, and it ultimately results in lots of colours but very little Sonic. At this point you may be wondering, what about Planet Wisp? And while it is a weaker stage in colours, it is instead for me the weakest level in Sonic Generations. The sad ballad of missed opportunity resounds strongly here, as rather than improving the level from the missteps made in colours, the Generations rehash of Planet Wisp fails to even capture what worked with the original level in the first place, and instead we ended up with another overly long level that relies too much on gimmicks and not enough on gameplay. It is a massive shame to me that this is the finale of Generations 2, a game that celebrates the very best levels in the Sonic series, as this slot could have gone to a level that would have really benefited so much more, such as Chaos Angel from Sonic Advance 3, Eggman Land from Sonic Unleashed, or dare I suggest, Sky Troops from Shadow the Hedgehog. Who knows, maybe one day we will get a Generations 2. Sonic Mania was a phenomenal return to form for the Blue Blur, and while it did return to several past levels and improve them, it was the game's original stages that really stole the show. Of the returning stages, Oil Ocean from Sonic 2 was the only one that in my opinion was a downgrade from the original, and while the first act is fine, the second act reintroduces a gimmick that I absolutely hate. Remember the ghost switches from Sandopolis Zone 2? Well, replace the ghosts with a toxic smog that slowly drains your rings, and there you have the most frustrating level in Sonic Mania. The visibility in the level is also affected, making this level so unenjoyable that I actively avoid replaying it. Oil Ocean itself was an odd choice to add to Mania, as again, there were other classic stages such as Casino Night Zone, Mystic Cave Zone and Sky Sanctuary Zone that would have benefited much more from a reimagining, although personally I would have enjoyed more original zones being in the game in the first place. Auto-scrollers and Sonic the Hedgehog do not mix. Whether it's Sky Chase from Sonic 2, the Lava Reef Act 2 boss in Sonic & Knuckles, or this metallic monstrosity from Sonic Forces, an auto-scroller is a surefire way to immediately ruin a level for me. It's a shame too, as the opening of this stage does show promise, with lots of high speed running and jumping, avoiding dastardly placed missiles in what feels like an epic showdown with Baldy McNosehair. This feeling of excitement comes to a screeching halt almost immediately, as you are forced into a slow, monotonous auto-scroll section that forces you to do some honestly overly simple platforming over a bottomless pit. From here on out, the level feels like walking through quicksand, and with the screen moving far too slowly and enemy placement being just terrible, you basically spend the rest of the level moving at a snail's pace while trying to avoid cheap deaths. It's another example of wasted potential, a shame as the classic Sonic levels were in my opinion one of the redeeming factors for Sonic Forces. On the subject of wasted potential comes the penultimate island in Sonic Frontiers, Rhea Island. The issue here in my opinion is that this is an incomplete level. It reuses the exact same theme of Kronos Island, but is sparse, empty, and features very little actual content. You visit Rhea Island as part of a story sequence that sees Sonic scaling several towers while fighting off Digital Corruption Virus, and while the towers themselves are an excellent challenge, the rest of the island is boring and it's devoid of any other content. It's a shame that the developers decided to simply reuse the previous level theme here too, as the gameplay only has 5 open zone islands, and surely they could have come up with more than 3 level themes for the entire game. Last, but by no means least on this list, I have chosen Rail Canyon from Shadow Generations. I must stress that this is not a bad level, and is in many ways a vast improvement on the original stage from Sonic Heroes. No, it is in fact a very good level, and it comes from a game which has, in my honest opinion, no weak levels. The minor critique of Rail Canyon is in the name. You spend a large proportion of the level on rails. While by no means is this level fully on rails, I again come back to the fact that if a level from Shadow's history was going to be remade in this game, there were several better options for it. It is criminal to me that in a game about Shadow, not a single one of the remade levels comes from the game of the same name. Whether it was Westopolis, Digital Circuit, Black Comet, or even Prison Island, I feel the sting of missed opportunity. Ultimately, what seems to be my main takeaway from this list is that there are some excellent levels in the Sonic game series, but there will always be room for improvement and some missed opportunities. These are of course however my opinions, and I would love to hear what yours are in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this list video and want to see more like it, please do drop me a like, a share and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell to be alerted for when I go live with more content, as we do both lists and gameplay on the channel. And as always, thank you ever so much for watching, and until next time, stay safe, see you, bye.